the big takeaways I got from this is that Apple really needs to pay attention. And I think this is where they may have missed a step.
If you're wrong, you have to buy a Hamish one.
I like that deal. Yeah.
No, reader, watcher, they do not. They were remotely controlled.
Any event involving Optimus, fully, you just need to be checking for strings.
If it does want to, take control of my body, I'll be like, okay, well, beat me at Mario Kart first.
Welcome, everyone, to the 7th spooky-themed episode of the TechRadar podcast. I'm your host, Josephine Watson, joined today by Hamish Hector.
Hello.
Lance Ulanoff.
Hello.
And Matt Bolton.
Hello.
This week, we'll be asking what tech from 2024 has been a treat and what's been a trick, comparing our horror movie survival plans by choosing just one essential piece of tech we take with us to help us survive, before our resident spooky queen, Lucy Buglis, joins us at the end of the episode to share her tips on what to watch this Halloween. But first off, here's Hamish with this month's episode of In Case You Missed It.
Thanks, Josie. Since the last podcast, we were treated to Meta Connect 2024. It's here that Meta finally showcased its new Meta Quest 3S, an affordable alternative to its headline VR headset. New AI upgrades coming to Meta AI and its Ray-Ban smart glasses, as well as the surprise reveal of its Orion AR glasses, an impressive pair of smart specs that Mark Zuckerberg thinks will one day replace smartphones. We also got another major hardware reveal courtesy of Nintendo. I'm not talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, I'm talking about the far more exciting Alamo sound clock. Alamo will play sounds and music from your favorite Nintendo games to help wake you up in the morning, and it features a screen which displays the time and one of the company's iconic mascots. What makes Alamo special is its motion sensor. It can track your movements while you rest to help you better understand your sleep patterns and detect when you sit up to turn your alarm off. Following several leaks, including one by Amazon right at the buzzer, we got brand new Kindles, a revamp of its Kindle Scribe line, and its first ever full-color Kindle e-reader in the form of the Kindle Colorsoft. Tesla held its long-awaited Cybercab event, where it showcased its vision for a future filled with electric robo-taxis at the Warner Brothers facility in California. While the event was filled with Hollywood glitz and glamour, Musk was light on specifics of precisely when Cybercabs will hit the streets and how much they'll cost. And critics have been quick to point out that rival robo-taxis are already transporting thousands of people around major American cities every week. And lastly, we saw Disney Plus continuing the trend of cutting shows and movies permanently from its service. Disney says this latest cut affected less than 2% of its platform's total titles, but it's nevertheless a frustrating cutback for every fan of the axed content.
Thanks so much, Hamish. I'll give you a second to catch your breath. That was a long one this week. We're going to start off with some of the hardware news because it's been a big month for us for that. So, Meta Connect. Lance, you were on the ground for that one. What was the vibe in the room? Because we've seen a lot of excitement on our TikTok about some of the content that we shared from there.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. So I went all the way out to California where I tried out the Quest 3S, and I know Hamish has actually done a wonderful review of it. I tried out Meta AI update and a bunch of different things. However, I didn't get to try out Orion, the Meta Orion AR glasses until I came back to New York for a private meeting. I was like the first person to do this, by the way, in New York. Private meeting, and tried out these glasses. So it really doesn't matter where I was. What matters is these glasses are kind of crazy. So look, we're all familiar with mixed reality, right? Vision Pro has it. Most of the VR headsets have it. And that just means usually it's like a pass through, or there's cameras that pull the outside in. And then sometimes they can layer virtual things on top of your real world. Most of them, though, are clunky, right? Vision Pro weighs about a pound. Quest 3S, about a pound. You wear them on your face, you're kind of closed off. Well, imagine glasses not too much, but definitely thicker than the glasses I'm wearing right here. Nothing else. Just put those on and your world changes in front of you. They have a special covering on these glasses called silicon carbide, which is apparently not in great supply, that takes the light and really spreads it across almost the entire frame. So it's a pretty wide field of view. I tried things like, I looked at a bunch of ingredients and I said, give me a recipe. Meta, give me a recipe. So Meta AI is built in. And as soon as I said that, there was like a little spin, and then on top of the real ingredients were labels of what they were, and then to the right, a recipe that I could use and page through. I used my hands to gesture around. I wore a special band. I think it's called an EMG band. And the band would let me control it to some extent. Like I could do this to shoot or to select things, but I could also just use my hand like I played Pong. I just did this back and forth. Um, Look, the point is, this was kind of a breakthrough. This is the best mixed reality experience I've had, partially because it was just in the format of eyeglasses. But it's not a product yet. Meta's nowhere near delivering this to you as a product. They still have to figure out how to refine the screen, how to make it in quantity, and they want it to be no more expensive than your most expensive like flagship. So maybe $1,000, $1,500 at most. That's really where they want it to be. If they get there, this could be kind of transformative. So I was kind of bowled over, and I really didn't expect to like it and enjoy the entire experience as much as I did.
And I've seen lots of people commenting on that thickness. And like you say, it is the thinnest version of this kind of technology we've seen, but it is still quite thick, right? People are also worrying if they might overheat as well and about the eye strain. How long did you spend with them? Did you experience anything like that?
It's a really good question. I spent about an hour. I never felt any heat at all. I was surprised I got an hour. So all those experiences and more because I even did a phone call with someone where they appeared on what I would say was like a 44, like a floating 42-inch screen, which looked quite good. Um, all of the experiences I did in the space of an hour. At the end, after I was taking some photos of the glasses, they finally said, "Do you mind if we grab those and charge them up?" So clearly I was about to get to the end of it. So I think an hour of intense use right now is about where they're at. And when you see like a see-through version of this and you see how the technology is squeezed into there, there is not a millimeter or a micrometer of space that is not filled with some sort of tech, including the batteries.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I can see if they manage to improve the battery life, I can see people using it.
Yeah, I mean, they're as thick as they are because we can't make this technology any smaller right now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that this design is so far ahead of anything else in terms of seeming like it could be an actual practical thing that could go on sale, except we have no way to get past the last 10%, the final impossible hurdle.
Lance, do you have much experience with the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, sort of the non-AR ones? Because those are thicker than regular glasses. How do they sort of compare? The Orion thicker again considerably, or?
Yes. Yeah, it's again, you make a really good point. We're in degrees of function, right? Of how much you can do with the particular glasses. So while I was out there, I have a pair of actually see-through Meta Ray-Ban glasses, which are probably they only look a little bit thicker than this, not a lot. And even for that, they have to really squeeze everything in. So yes, the Meta Orion glasses are definitely thicker. But again, I guess one of the things, the big takeaways I got from this is that Apple really needs to pay attention. And I think this is where they may have missed a step. So we've got the Vision Pro, which does all of these things, and in some ways does all of these things better, right? But you've got this rather big and heavy and incredibly expensive headset that they're trying to sell to consumers right now. It's $3,500 in the US, right? And no one is really buying it, not at scale. That's why when I write about it, no one seems to care. But we have to, when you look at where Amazon is starting from a much lighter weight and they're trying to make it much cheaper, it's the third will be maybe a fourth or a third of the price. I think that they're sort of showing the direction we need to go for this. I think that most people do not really want to be cut off from the world, and they don't want a virtual version of their eyes to show up on the outside of something because it just freaks people out. So even if this is not what we get, I think, Meta just wrote the script for everyone else, and this is what should play out.
And then on other hardware news, we've also had 4 new Kindles this week, was it? 4 new Kindles? Insane. Like, massive release. The biggest release I think they've ever done for a Kindle range. The one I'm most excited for, and I feel like, Hamish, you're going to be with me on this one, is the Color Soft.
Yeah.
The idea of being able to read like manga and comics on a Kindle with the true sort of vision of what the artist envisioned. I love that. Are you sort of on the same page?
Yeah, I think my main thing is I'm a little bit put off by the price, I guess. It's, remind me what it's like, 200 something?
79.
279,
yeah,
which is, I guess, sort of makes sense, but I feel like Kindles have always felt like that sort of more budget-friendly option, and so that sort of, for me, pushes it beyond like a budget-friendly purchase.
Yeah.
Because you can get like a really cheap tablet for like £100, for example.
It does, but it's an Amazon product. Give it till next Black Friday, it's going to be 45% off.
Well,
Does that change
Yeah, even
things?
in what, like a month's time?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, following the trend of previous big sales, I mean, they released the Echo Spot 3 days before Prime Day in the summer, and it was discounted by half price. So we might see a repeat performance for Black Friday this year, not even next year.
I mean, just keep in mind that, it might take a little bit longer to sort of get those big price cuts, because while Kindle e-ink technology has not fundamentally changed in like a decade, it's gotten better, but it's not a sea change. To bring color to these devices, they have a brand new technology on top of it, a filter that is doing this work. So it is, I think there is cost baked into that, because Amazon's pretty good at selling things at almost a loss. That's always been their way, because what they're really interested in is you being on Amazon and spending more money. And every device that can give you that, allows you to do that, is worth it, even if it costs them money. So I'm imagining that they've made this about as cheap as it can be right now. And we won't see major discounts immediately during Black Friday, but I think that maybe in a year's time we'll see maybe like 10 or 15% off.
If you're wrong, you have to buy a Hamish one.
I like that deal. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's Hamish? Who? I'm sorry, don't know him.
The last bit I wanted to talk about was the Tesla Cybercab unveiling, but not actually about the Cybercab. I want to talk about these robots. I'm still seeing so many people talking about how amazing these robots are, that they have movable hands, they have seemingly personalities. No, reader, watcher, they do not. That they were remotely controlled. How are we all feeling about this event?
The funny thing about that is it's kind of impressive that they were being remotely controlled for so long, so consistently, by a team of people behind the scenes to such convincing effect. And that story has been lost by the story of them faking a different thing they thought would be impressive. And it seems like such a waste of one impressive result for a load of junk.
I was just going to say that it's like you can't pull a bait and switch. We have been watching the Optimus robot, the development of it, for a few years now. And the thing that everyone's noticed is that it looks pretty cool, but development-wise, movement-wise, it's been behind, like, for example, Boston Dynamics Atlas robot and other robots that are humanoid. And so suddenly there's this event, and not only are they moving fluidly, but they're having conversations, they're serving drinks. And I'm telling you, as soon as I saw that, I posted, I think on a maybe X and maybe the other platform, Threads, that they were being teleoperated. The speech in particular was so obviously not, it wasn't even AI generated. It didn't make any sense, even the speed at which they were responding. And I think that's where they made the mistake. Matt's right. When you have like dozens of robots all kind of acting and dancing and moving, and then you have a team of people in the background doing it, that's actually a cool story. But don't try and sell it as something it's not.
I'm loath to credit them somewhat, to say that I do put a lot of blame on some of the influencers and media who were there, who received that disclaimer before going in and did not make it on any of their content. But then the flip side of that is, well, how much can you expect? Of course, that's going to happen if you unleash a load of people who are hungry for those views into a room with robots that look like they're so much more advanced than anything we've seen before, in fairness to them.
Am I right in thinking that the original unveiling of the Optimus robot was a man in a suit?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Dancing.
There's-
So just
good.
any event involving Optimus, fully you just need to be checking for strings or wires or...
Well, the other thing that's really interesting, and this is unconfirmed, don't quote me on this, but allegedly the robots that were doing the serving were also not the same ones that were doing the walking.
that sounds right, actually. You know what's lost among this, there was a lot of light shed on this event because it was Tesla and it was the robotaxi, and so they made it all about robots. But there's so much more interesting stuff going on in the robotic world of humanoid robotics development. There was just like a deal between Boston Dynamics, I think, and Toyota, where they're going to really work on solving some of these issues you're talking about, because everything that a humanoid robot does, right, is trying to mimic what we do as humans, that we do naturally, and it's really, really hard work. So partnerships like that are going to accelerate the process, and eventually we'll see something like C3PO in our homes. But I hate the idea that Tesla keeps walking around acting like they're ahead of everybody and they have had some breakthrough when they've had almost no breakthroughs.
And it keeps sort of this cycle of hype up, which eventually is just going to be disappointing because, I mean, like robo-taxi, I know we were talking about the robots, but like this robo-taxi idea, Musk has been talking about it as being something that's coming in a year or two
next year.
since 2015.
Yeah.
And, and then he says, oh yeah, it'll probably be coming in a couple of years. It's going to hopefully be like 30K for a car.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, well, you also said that the Cyber truck would be under 40K, and that now is 95K for the cheapest one.
Oh, it's at least. You're paying 100,000 easy.
Yeah.
It's like, again, kind of as you were saying, Matt, is like you can promise these really cool things, but then they're not delivered on and so it just sort of lowers everyone's excitement for it. Whereas, there is something exciting here if you don't over-exaggerate.
The thing that drove me a bit mad about it is that there's, trying to combat this conversation of like, automation removing jobs for people by implying that the drivers can afford to buy a fleet of robo-taxis and continue their work as someone whose career is transporting people by owning a fleet. I'm like, do you think today's modern Uber driver or Lyft or whatever other platform you might be using, do you think they can afford a purportedly 30,000 but likely 60 upwards? No.
He's not talking to those people. He's talking to the big companies, and he's trying to excite them. But did you see that thing? Did you see the robotaxi?
Yeah.
It's ridiculously impractical. Why does it have gull wings? That doesn't work. Do you know, like, those doors, because they had them on the Model X, and there are not a lot of them out there because of doors like that, which are not practical in parking lots and for a taxi where people are trying to get in and out fast. Oh, and isn't it just like a two-seater? Which, I'm sorry, don't we sometimes, I'm about to travel with my whole family. That would be useless to me.
It's just the front seats, there's no back seats, or is it?
It looks like there's just two seats from what I can tell.
But there are already 5-seat automated vehicles in some cities.
Well, you could take that giant, what is it? I don't know. It's like a
Cyber van?
bus, the cyber van, like which seats, I don't know, 25, but doesn't look, he is now creating science fiction products for a science fiction audience and forgetting about practical people. And that doesn't surprise me because he's off the rails anyway.
Well, the event's called We Robot because he's just literally trying to recreate the image of a movie that he once saw and thought was well good.
I kind of hoped it was going to be about just a wee robot, like.
Speaking of the science fiction audience, the other thing I want to say about the robot event is the we've invented the most advanced robot in the world. Here it's going to serve you drinks and dance and do chats for you is exactly what happens at the start of the film Short Circuit.
It is.
And so I just want to say, I don't know if anyone has checked on the robots in the day since then. If one is missing.
I want to watch that movie again. It's great.
For me, I just don't understand why we're designing robots with opposable thumbs. Like, I wouldn't trust my cat with opposable thumbs because I know it's going to wield a weapon at me. If we don't think that a robot's going to do the same, we're dumb. We are dumb, and we deserve what's coming to us. But
I think I could take a
we'll
robot.
see. You think you could take a
I
robot?
could take a robot.
I mean,
But
I don't
not a
know.
cat.
No, not a cat. Cat would beat me for sure.
You could take the Optimus robots because they walk at 1 mile an hour.
Yeah, just push it over.
From that
Can't get my guts.
incredibly,
Just have to run away.
the incredibly slow walking video where like everyone's like slow motioning alongside them was probably the highlight of the event. I do like their little hip wiggle though. I don't know if you noticed that. They got a little bit of
swagger
motion
to
in the
them.
ocean there. I
Okay.
quite like that. Anyway, we should move on to talk about the scariest tech of 2024 and if we think it's a trick or a treat. Now, we're not saying this tech is scary, that you should be scared of it. We're talking about it in a Halloween sense, so don't worry too much. But first off, there's no prize for guessing what we're going to talk about. AI. It's been the biggest talking point of the year. We've talked about it a lot, but I want to hear from each of you if you think it's a trick, a treat, and one example of why you think it is that. I can start off while you all think, because I've got some pensive looks around the room. I'm going to say trick, surprise to none. You've heard my opinions on AI throughout this. I just want to goof around with it, to be honest. I don't see it as something super practical in my life. I think there's areas where it's going to be amazing. I don't necessarily want to have a pin that can talk to me and maybe call people I know if it can recognize their names. I don't want to have something super, super invasive in my life all the time because I don't feel like I need it. I feel like tech's done a lot to take that away from me. That's my stance. Hamish, I'm going to go to you first.
I'm going to say treat overall, actually. I'm not the biggest fan of AI in lots of ways. So saying it's a treat is maybe a bit of a surprise. But I think that from actually sort of conversely to having the thing you can wear, I'm really liking the Ray-Ban Meta Smart Glasses with the AI in now here in the UK. It's actually like fun and kind of useful. And I can sort of see, you know, if Orion comes out and it's a bit more impressive, like having something you can sort of talk to so you're able to have that technological interaction without needing to sort of have your phone out and be wandering around like this everywhere. It's actually pretty cool. Though I also don't love AI from that sort of taking people's jobs kinds of things. That's where maybe it's a little bit more of a trick. But also I think that that's sort of people at the moment especially trying to like give AI too much credit for how impressive it is. Like it's fun, but it does it. It's fun. So like I think if people sort of use it as it kind of is right now and use it responsibly, yeah, I'm coming around to it.
What about you, Lance? Trick or treat?
I think it's a treat. I think it gets a bad rap because it's seen as a sort of monolith. That it's AI, but AI is so many different things. Last year or earlier this year, I should say, I wrote about sort of a practical use of AI. Right, I was doing gardening. Not with this
That
plant.
looks like a very alive plant.
This plant is completely not real,
Yeah.
which would make sense for AI. But I used it for gardening, and I think that the practical purposes of AI and the powerful purposes of AI is where the greatest benefit is going to show up. And in health, like medical, when we're trying to analyze vast amounts of data for like breast cancer, right? So this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and when you're using AI to go through data in a way that humans can't possibly do and to come up with discoveries and connections that we can't see, I think that's where it gets exciting. And because AI is developing at a pace that is at least double time compared to traditional technology, the benefits are going to roll as fast as some of the deficits. So it is a balancing act. There is a lot of stuff that's happening which is overwhelming, or I look at the job market. I have a couple of adult children who are in the job market, and I have this sense that some of what they're looking at, the world in which they're looking at job possibilities, has narrowed a bit because some of the basic tasks that they might be asked to do, the companies have decided just let AI do that. And I think that is where we have a problem, and that's sort of the trick part. So I think largely I'm on the treat side, but I understand that no matter what, AI is going to change certain parts of our world in ways we're probably not going to like.
Yeah, as does most tech. Look at the internet. Matt, what about yourself?
In the trick or treat spectrum, I'd say it's kind of like getting some chocolate raisins.
Yeah.
It's not a great treat, but I'm not mad about it.
Yeah. It's the bottom of the barrel of
You're hating
the
on
trick or
chocolate
treat.
raisins.
Well, it's no Kinder Bueno. Like,
Yeah. You don't like it so much as like a really, really good chewy toffee or something.
Yeah. So if we're talking, you mentioned about in 2024 in particular. So one of the things that have really jumped up this year is the kind of being able to use it to speed up processes, to write boring letters for you, to automate certain things that is super useful. The flip side of that is the comments I've seen from like teachers especially saying about what actually a massively increased burden it is putting on them because we have no system to stop just everyone, every kid from ChatGPTing what they do. And even if you can easily sense it, like you have to prove it. There's still a further burden on doing something about that we have no way to work around right now. So it's the interesting thing where it's like, but it's going to make life so much easier. Well, no, not for everyone though.
I saw an article recently of a teacher who has literally quit teaching because they just felt so disenfranchised by their students. They're reading these articles, these essays, knowing that they have been written by AI, but not being able to do anything about it and just being like, what am I here for?
No one knows what cracking using computers or using AI, we could extend it into an exam environment or into education looks like. We'll only know we've solved it when people are allowed computers or AI in exams.
Yep. No, it's an interesting journey. I'm looking forward to it. I think it will do some good for education. I think it's going to do a lot of good for health. I don't think it's going to do very much good for some of us who work in creative careers, but we'll see. Next one is extended reality. So it's been a big year for extended reality. We've talked a lot about it already in terms of the smart glasses and the Vision Pro we've seen this year. So we don't need to go too much into it, but Hamish, I know your answer.
Easy treat. I mean, I love VR. I've got the Quest 3S here. I've been testing it out. I've got a Quest 3 at home. I use pretty much every week.
Yep.
I think it's really fun. There's some really cool stuff. I can't talk about it all because I don't. When's the podcast coming out?
Wednesday.
Around Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, I can't talk about it yet.
Okay.
Keep all that in.
Make sure to check out techradar.com for whatever Hamish can't talk about.
There's some really cool games I've been playing that I cannot talk about in VR recently, and I think there's some really awesome potentials for, like, as we were saying a minute ago, like education, like sort of being able to explore XR recreations of museums and art galleries that, it would be nice to go to that place for real. But, if you live in the States, you can't just fly over to Paris to go to the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa and all these other awesome pieces of artwork. So that sort of thing is really fantastic. And obviously, as it gets a little bit more accessible with this sort of cheaper price again with the Quest 3S, or more accessible from, it not being something you have to strap to your face with Orion and other future things, I think XR's really sweet and everyone should give it a go.
Very good.
It would probably be a good idea if people could see the Mona Lisa in VR first, so that when they go, you don't just have the queue of people going, is that it?
Yeah. It's just such a throng of people around it every time you go. It's a nightmare. They kind of need to have, like, when you go to a concert and they've just got a camera that you can see the artist performing on, they kind of need that at this point.
It would be so funny if you went there in VR and it's just VR crowds and you're like, God
That would be
damn it.
excellent. Lance, what about yourself? Do you think extended reality is a trick or a treat? I think I know this answer as well.
Yeah, I think it's a treat. I pretty much agree with everything that Hamish said. It's the technology's moved so far forward, with the ability to, the reason these glasses and everything work is that they have such great sensors that they can see your real environment and then connect the two together. When you connect the real with the virtual and it looks like it all makes sense, that's transformative. But honestly, the treat for me in mixed reality will be when I am wearing glasses that look just like this, and I see someone coming up to me and they clearly know me and I can't remember them. And right on top of them appears their name and where I met them, everything I need to know, so I don't have to be like, hey, you, because that's what I do every time.
Is that why you looked at me so funny when you came over to London, Lance?
Hey, You're part of the Pussycats, Josie. Oh, Josie and the Pussycats. Then
I guess one of the blockers I'd be interested to ask you about, Lance, with the Orion glasses is, are they prescription friendly? Can you swap in, because you wear glasses, right? You're wearing them now.
And so I couldn't.
No.
Good question. I could not wear my glasses, and they asked me before I arrived. They're like, "Oh, can you put in your contacts?" Well, I hate to tell you this, I have never in my whole life worn contacts. I cannot put my finger in my eye, cannot do it, will not do it. It terrifies me, can't. Also, I like glasses on my face because it hides the size of my nose. This is my feeling. This is my story. But the reality is that I was surprised that the Orion experience was as good as it was, considering my vision limitations. Now, my vision up close is pretty decent, so most of my experiences were not far from my face. But anything that what I would do actually throughout the experience, I would grab objects and pull them closer to me so they were clear.
Excellent. It'll be interesting. Well, I guess you won't be interested in the fact that hopefully we're going to have smart contact lenses someday then. But it'll be cool to see how there wasn't there already one this year at CES or something? Someone talking about
They keep saying it's
We're at CES every year.
Yeah, every year it's a lie.
They said that about smart glasses 10 years ago. We had Google Glass.
What does it do? Is it like just sort of like scanning things around you? Is it just checking
I
your
don't
health?
know. I have not tried them.
You mentioned them.
I saw it in a comment. The best research I can do as a journalist is reading our TikTok comments. Anyway, Matt, trick or treat in extended reality?
I'm going to say trick, just to mix things up.
Nice.
I mean, there's good stuff coming out, certainly over the last year, but I'm like, the thing about Vision Pro is that is an actual product people can buy. Mm-hmm. No, not really. It's a prototype. Yeah. It's just a prototype that is available for people to buy because Apple would like you to start pushing the platform forward and developing things for it, which is a very good and useful idea. But I'm like, when we're talking about the versions of it that might work mainstream in real life, something like the Orion, something like a cheaper lighter Vision Pro without a battery pack. It's all right, we'll get to those. We're talking about hypothetical products for some time in the future.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's almost like trick in the literal sense of everyone's like, yeah, this product exists, more or less.
Yeah.
Exists, asterisk. Now, Meta is way further along with this than anyone else in terms of making it affordable, an actual thing you'd want to buy and so on. I still feel like it's kind of just a, toy.
I think it's
in my
kind
opinion.
It's kind of a similar thing for me. I'd say it's a soft treat. It's a caramel. It's gooey. I love VR. I'm with you on that. I remember clear as day the first time I tried playing a game in VR, which was No Man's Sky, and it's a game that I love. And being transported to another world, amazing. I'm at a place where I am struggling, and I've talked about it quite a lot in this podcast, with how dependent I am on my phone, with how invasive my phone is in my life, with the fact that I can't even walk around London anymore without feeling anxious if I'm not looking at my wayfinding apps. So I'm trying to be a bit more present in the world generally. I don't know that I need, you have 10 unread messages on Messenger pinging up, because everyone knows I don't read my messages within 6 to 9 business days of receiving them. So not so much for me, I don't think. The last one I want to talk about quickly is wearable devices. We've seen huge developments for smart rings. We've obviously talked a bit about smart glasses from a different sense. And we've also got lots of smart watches now on the market. But it can be a little bit pervasive. You get a lot of data. Sometimes you might not want that data. So a little bit of a pro, a little bit of a con there to kick us off. But I'm going to start with you actually this time, Matt Bolton. I'm going to surprise you. Throw it at you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an Apple Watch user. I am happy with the idea of wearables overall. Obviously, everyone needs to work out how each one is going to fit in your life. So, I'm on trick, but I'm not. I don't go down that rabbit hole too far. I'm kind of there's a couple I'll use that are interesting. Sure, just dip a toe in. But one of those elements is. As a guy who, again, if I've got the Apple Watch, I'm using the iPhone. I'm in the Apple system, and I'm happier with my data in that system than I might be in some other systems, shall we say.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, some people will say, possibly rightly, you can't trust any of these companies with your data. They'll all want to extract money from it long term. But I got to make these decisions here and now.
Yeah.
And my here and now decision is I'm happy with Apple Health. I don't know that I would feel the same about other softwares.
Hamish, what about you? Trick or treat?
I'm really liking it. I think it's a treat for me right now because I think in the wearable space, there's so many different options. I'm wearing a smart ring, the Ringcon Gen 2, and, I'm not wearing a watch, but I used to wear a normal analog watch all the time. I loved it. But then when I got a Fitbit, I had to swap it out.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that now you have that choice of being able to wear the watch you like and have sort of some of those health features. Or, if you do want some of the fitness things that smart rings aren't particularly good at, especially this one. This one is terrible for fitness. It's, you've kind of got that choice for what you want out of the tech. And then, there's things like battery life can be a bit of an issue on some smartwatches. But again, some smart rings can go for like 7 to 12 days without having to recharge, which is really handy. So, there's a slight fear about who's got my health data and maybe, but also, I'm part of the generation that kind of grew up with the internet always being around, and basically throughout my whole school life there was some kind of social media I could use. So basically all of my data is already out there for these companies to abuse. So I don't really mind more people having it at this stage. Like
it's awful being an internet kid, isn't
it? They could make an AI clone of me tomorrow already. So I don't think adding a few more, here's what my heart rate is right now, is really going to change anything, unfortunately.
What about you, Lance? Trick or treat?
I think it's mostly a treat. I've been looking at Hamish's health data and his heart rate. It's. I have an Apple Watch. I'm wearing an Oura Ring, and generally I really like it. I use it primarily on the health side. It's always about working out. Like I track my workouts. I like that. I do think we haven't reached that perfect point yet. Everything sort of does something slightly different. There's pros and cons. I really like the Ring because it's great I can sleep with it. And generally I don't like to sleep with the watch on. But I also realized, I said to someone the other day, I go, I have no idea if this thing is charged, the Ring. Like I'd been wearing it for like 6 or 7 days and I'd forgotten. And because you don't get any alerts on the Ring itself, it's just suddenly, now it's just a dummy ring. It's just sitting on my finger. So, you always have to learn a new habit with wearables that if you're wearing a piece of jewelry, or even most analog watches, you wind them once a day, or maybe you even don't if they're automatic. But with technology, there are habits you have to learn for them to do the work for you. And so that's the one thing where I don't think we've quite achieved peak wearable lifestyle yet.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. I'm trying the Evie ring at the moment, so we've got 3 smart rings in one pod. It's the one that was announced at CES, the one that's women focused, and I'm fine with that. I think it's cool. I think it's really exciting, but it's a hot button subject that you have to acknowledge when it comes to female bodily autonomy, certain things that have happened in the US in the last year that are happening in other countries as well, to do with menstrual tracking and how that information might be used against you. But even also targeted advertising, there's a lot of things that can happen that can be quite sinister when it comes to female health. So from that perspective, while I think it's cool and I'm enjoying it so far, I do keep looking at it and just think, have I just, let the beast into my home? But I'd say it's a treat, but one that I'm very suspicious of. I don't trust the dietary information that's on the packet, but I still want to eat it, so I'm going to.
I know it's small enough to eat, Josie, but no.
No. So before we move on to talk about the best movies to stream this year, I wanted to know how all of you are going to survive a horror movie. So I believe you should have all prepared an idea, hopefully. If you can give an idea of what that horror movie would be and how you would survive it, what genre it's in, I'd be interested to know. I think, Matt, you are ready and raring to go. You've been waiting for this moment.
Those kids in the Blair Witch Project would have had a much easier time with A, GPS, and B, satellite texting on the new generation of phones. If by the 3rd time they've passed that one tree, they're like, you know what, I'm just going to text Dad. That movie is fine.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Lance, did you come with one prepared for how you'd survive a horror movie?
I do. I mean, basically, I'm always thinking about the sort of everything that happens with a horror movie is like everything breaks down, right? Like A Quiet Place, there's just nothing left, except there's always sunlight. And so all I need is a good solar powered generator. And I'm ready. I will not. Well, look, I won't have a cell network, but at least I'll have something. I can play apps on my phone because I charge it up, and until something comes to eat my brains. But that would be my solution.
Hamish, what about you?
So for me, I'm sort of imagining like some spirit has like got into me or is trying to infect my friends. And, you know, I just think it's bored. So I'm going to give it a Nintendo Switch. Or if it does want to, you know, take control of my body, I'll be like, okay, well, beat me at Mario Kart first. And then, you know, make a deal of it. Otherwise, because there's always these, like, rules, right? Where, you know, like, oh, if you don't share this thing with other people, then I'll get you. It's like, okay, well, rather than that, just if you beat me at Mario Kart, you can have my body. If not, go
back
away.
yourself that badly?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm all right.
Okay,
I'm not too bad.
okay.
Well, especially against a ghost that's probably never played Mario Kart before.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what any of
yeah.
the things do.
You'd have to contextually know when this ghost passed on to know how good they might be at Mario Kart. But I'll get that.
Alternative enter Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal is you can challenge death to a game of something, and you're like, Rainbow Road, buddy.
This feels like something that should have been in one of the Deadpool movies at some point, seeing as he fraternises quite closely with death, but maybe not. For me, it's generally along the theme of smart home. Anything smart home, if you're in a slasher movie, you can see them coming if you've got a video doorbell. If you've got a robot vacuum, you can use it to like drive around your house, surveil what's there, strap a knife to it, and it's like a little robo-unicorn. Genius.
Little Robot Wars.
I am ready for my slasher movie.
Do you think that getting them at their ankles is going to help?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it could trip them over. It could, you know, get their Achilles heel, and then they can't climb the stairs, which means I'm still safe because robot vacuums also can't climb stairs.
Oh, you think it'll turn on you?
No. I'm saying that it can stop the invader from being able to climb stairs.
I feel like what you just
Because if it
described
climbs stairs,
there
I'm
is
dead.
like the horror movie where you think you've set up this plan to keep yourself safe, and then all the tech turns on you, and you've just made like your own haunted house.
Well, in that movie,
with,
I'd
like,
have a Faraday.
A Roomba with a knife on it. It's like a great start.
But in that movie, I'd have a Faraday bag, and then I'd put all of my tech in the Faraday bag, and it can't communicate.
I actually think that's such a great idea for a movie that somebody falsely assumes that they're under attack by zombies, so they rig their whole house with smart home technology to protect them, and then all of that smart home technology turns on them, and the horror movie is just in their house.
That rogue, I think you might be about to say the same thing as me, Disney original movie from the 90s. No, maybe not. There is a Disney original movie from the 90s called The Smart Home, and it like the AI running the home kind of falls in love with the dad or something, and it gets a little bit like dark.
It's also
in
a
places.
Simpsons episode, right?
Wow. Wait, did you say it's a Disney movie? What?
I'm pretty sure, I'm going to have to fact check myself, but I'm pretty sure it was a Disney Channel original movie.
There was also a more recent, well, you look that up. There was a more recent horror movie called Margot, about an evil Alexa called Margot, which is
Excellent.
a very bad movie. It is kind of charming, though.
Oh, okay, that's quite nice. It was called Smart House, and it was a 1999 American sci-fi released as the 8th Disney Channel original movie.
You know, I've heard of that movie. I've heard of it. We may have even seen it in my house.
You should watch it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Disney Plus.
I don't
I
know
bet
if it
it's
is
not
on
as
Disney
good
Plus.
as you remember. I bet it's not as good as you remember.
No, it's definitely not. But it's good in the sense of like I remember watching that and learning about the concept of smart home, and now I work in smart home, so I think it's good.
It was probably recently removed from Disney Plus.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think probably it was. If I remember correctly, it was definitely quite sinister in places. So maybe that can go in our next section for what to watch this Halloween.
Also, Josie, you didn't specify exactly what horror movie you're referring to. I assume Home Alone. Yeah. For yours.
It is a scary movie for children, I think.
Yeah,
and
forget
I
Nightmare
have
Before Christmas. Is Home Alone a Halloween or a Christmas movie?
Ooh,
That's the real
great
debate.
question.
That's a kid's fantasy movie. It's like,
One more before we go. When the Babadook turns up with his pop-up book to give your kids, these days they're just on the iPad now. It's like, you've got no chance.
they're like, what is this thing?
Lance is unfortunately leaving us for today's episode of the last section, so we'll say farewell to Lance. Bye, Lance.
Adios, folks. Thanks for having me. Bye.
We're going to take a brief pause now, and Lucy's going to join us to tell us what to watch this Halloween. See you in a sec. So we are back and now joined by Lucy. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's all right. Lucy's going to talk us through some of the different platforms that are streaming good Halloween content this year. So, Lucy, I think you were going to start off with Peacock, right?
Yeah, so Peacock is the only TV series on my list. They have a really cool new series called Hysteria.
Nice.
Horror fans will know Bruce Campbell. He's basically the selling point of that. He's Ash in The Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah.
So, he's basically playing a police officer in it, which is sick. It basically centers around the satanic panic of the 1980s.
Nice.
So the whole premise is school kid goes missing, the occult is assumed that there's responsibility for it. A high school band kind of taps into the occult and tries to be like, oh, band's failing, let's worship the devil. And then
logical decision.
Stuff goes down, basically. And that's the 8-part series on Peacock, streaming from October the 18th. Which looks great.
The real question is the music from the band any good?
Do you know what? I haven't heard any of it yet, which is kind of hilarious.
Really?
You would have thought you would put it in the trailer, right?
Yeah.
No, not really. It's weird.
Interesting. And then what's next on your list?
We've got Netflix, which is the only non horror on here, but I've got a justification for it.
Okay.
It's Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, Woman of the Hour.
Okay.
Which is about the dating game killer.
Oh.
And it's basically from the point of view of the victim who escaped him, essentially.
Yeah.
So, she obviously went on a date with him.
Right.
Just, felt really weird.
Yeah.
Kind of called things off, and then it kind of just goes from there. But it's meant to be quite a sensitively represented one.
While we're talking Netflix, this isn't new, but we could go back to TVs for a minute to talk about Mike Flanagan.
Oh, yeah.
The great horror director has a bunch of shows on Netflix. Last Halloween, Fall of the House of Usher came out, but he's got The Haunting of Hill House and a few others on there. He's such a good director.
What was the one he did with Hamish Linklater in again? No, was it not him? The TV show with was on an island and there's lots of religious stuff going on. Is that a different director?
Is that Midnight Mass?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
I
that
loved
was great. That
yes,
was really good.
That's a really good one. Watch that one.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good.
And again, that's Flanagan, so
Yeah.
I also saw It's What's Inside this weekend just gone, which is on. Is that new on Netflix this year?
That is new as well, yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, I need to see that. It's on my list, actually.
I like the style. Well, I'll caveat to say, stylistically, I thought it was really good. There are some weaknesses in the writing, I'd say, but broadly, it was very, very nice to look at. Very nice to look at.
Yeah.
What's up on Amazon? I think is that next on your list?
Prime Video. There's a one that we've been talking about in the office a lot called Totally Killer, and Tom Power has described this. Our entertainment writer has described this as being Back to the Future meets Scream.
Okay.
And it sounds a bit naff, and it kind of is, but that's its selling point.
I like that.
It's very. I've written it down here, but basically it follows a sweet 16 killer who kills victims on the 16th birthday by stabbing them 16 times, and it's kind of that's a bit lame.
Yeah,
but
very Batman villain.
It's great. It's very self-aware and silly, and it's good fun. That's one if you just want to sort of chill. You don't want to be jump scared or anxious. You just want to sort of watch teens trying to figure out a mystery,
So you just want to watch teens being murdered then. I was just
well, no, you don't. You don't really want to watch that.
No, it's super fun.
Yeah, it's really great.
It's not trying to be some super dark slasher movie. It's just wouldn't it be fun if you mix these two things together?
It sounds like a sort of spiritual successor to Happy Death Day, which I feel like combines
similar vibes.
the slasher with Groundhog Day.
So good.
It's such a good movie.
That is a good movie.
Time loop movies.
Yeah.
And the sequel's just weird, a bit silly.
And the sequel is a Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, it doesn't really need to be there, but it was a
There
great
seems
one
to be
to watch.
a surprising number of Back to the Future inspired horror films I'm learning here.
Particularly that director who did Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2 and also did Freaky, which is the body swap sort of horror movie.
It was like the Freaky Friday, but scary.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Which was clearly supposed to be called Freaky Friday the 13th, and then some lawyer got involved and went, absolutely not.
Can't do that.
But that is very close.
But that's his thing, is he does those. And he's producing another movie that, again, is one of these, I took a classic high-concept comedy and a horror and mashed them up.
Nice.
And I love them all, so.
Very good. What's next on your list?
Where should we go next? Actually, I do want to give Hulu a special shout out just because they've branded themselves Huluween, which is excellent. So
That is good.
nobody else did that. Do you know what? Like, I just think they kind of had the opportunity and they took it, and I respect that. You know.
That's fair.
So there's two. We'll start with the one that I let me see, the one that I have actually seen, and then there's one that I refuse to watch, but that's another story.
Okay.
The one I love is called Late Night with the Devil.
Okay.
And it's basically really like kind of, you know, campy, like Tonight Show kind of host. His show's like failing essentially,
Right.
and he needs to sort of get his ratings up. So he decides to do a cult special, like bringing on like Halloween people.
Right,
So he
right.
brings on. I've written
Kind of
it
like
down
what we've done in
here.
this week's episode.
Yeah, he brings on a psychic, a magician, and a child who was possessed.
Oh, great combo.
And it's a bit, it's hard to sort of like sell this, but it's got like documentary elements, found footage elements. It's very sort of what happens if you were watching, like, I don't know, The Tonight Show, and then everything just went wrong and went awful and just really shocking visuals. It's really, really good fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's really tense. It's not like, you know, it's not horror that's going to push you too far when watching it in terms of the gore or being like such a, you know, a really big jump that like stresses you out. It's an ongoing building dread kind of movie. And it is, it's basically like a lost episode of the show. So a lot of it is what it would have looked like if you were watching the show. And then every time they cut to an ad break, it's kind of behind the scenes footage that would normally be discarded.
It's really smart.
Interesting. I have to give that a watch because I'm not big on gore. Big on gore. So any film that does the suspense thing really well without
it's got
gore.
a few like sort of like moments, but
Yeah,
I think you'll be all right with it.
What else is on your list?
So the one I will refuse to watch, and you couldn't pay me to watch it, but this is a good thing. It's called Sting. It's the giant spider movie.
No, it's not for
Exactly.
me. No,
I
thanks.
hate spiders, but this went mental on social media. People were like, this is nuts, like massive spider, you know, like we're looking like 8-legged freaks, arachnophobia vibes, like basically it's
But those weren't scary. Sting looks horrible.
Exactly, it's that, but like dialed up to like 100.
No.
Essentially, it follows a young girl who has a pet spider called Sting. Because I did look this up and I thought, spiders don't sting you, right? Like, they bite you.
Yeah.
The spider's called Sting. Confusing.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's a weird choice. You don't
Spiders
really...
do bite.
They do.
Very few spiders are capable of piercing the human skin.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
But I don't care because they're gross.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gross. It's not actually the fear of being bitten, really.
Yeah.
It's the fear of at all occupying the same space as something that disgusting.
If I see a spider at night and I'm not able to get it outside before it crawls away under my bed, that's the spider's bedroom that evening. I'm going on the sofa, like, I'm giving it up.
They just sort of appear, and you're like, where'd you come from?
I was telling you the other day, I came home after work one day and there was a massive wolf spider on my front door, and I had the perfectly normal, natural human response of bolting into my house and then using duct tape to tape the outsides of my door so there was no gap that the spider could walk through. And I kept that tape on my door, I kid you not, for about 6 months, just in case. Just in case he was still around. So I think it's safe to say I'm on the arachnophobia train.
Yeah, but it's meant to be very, very good, and it's by an Aussie filmmaker, so they know what they're talking about. They've seen spiders.
Yeah.
Right? They know what's scary. We don't have big ones like that in the UK.
Fine.
But no, it does look good. I'll give it credit, but I'm never going to watch
No.
it. It's basically what I've concluded.
Maybe there's a way, like in the future, like some of the VR glasses we've been talking about earlier in the episode will be able to like filter out the spiders and turn them into like, you know, like spaghetti or something.
Why would you want to not know where they are, though?
No, I'm saying in films. I'm saying in films. Like there's a game called Grounded where you can change the settings on it so that instead of being actual spiders that are running around like giant spiders because you've been shrunk to small side context for all the gamers, instead of them being giant spiders, you can just turn them into blobs. And they just sort of menacingly blob around. That's what I want for films with spiders in.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't even need to be VR. People need to be considerate, and much as, you know, a cinema will do caption showings for deaf people, there should be a no spiders showing for us weirdos.
Close it. Anyway.
I do actually want to give a special shout out to BioWare, who have confirmed their new Dragon Age just does not have spiders in it.
Oh, good.
Because I cannot play Dragon Age 2 because all my friends say there's just non-stop spiders.
Yeah, no.
So if anybody knows a mod that can get rid of them, tell me.
I think there are a few.
I want to play the game. It looks great. But every enemy is just a spider, and it's like...
I think there's one for Baldur's Gate 3 as well, which I'm
There is,
considering implementing
which
because
is useful.
I've got a ranger character, and every now and then I kind of need to summon the spider companion, and I can't.
Turn it into something else.
Yeah. Anything else that you wanted to recommend before you?
Yeah, so I've got Max. Max is great for A24, and there's so many A24 films.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the place to be if that's kind of your vibe. My standout one that I've banged on about constantly in the office is I Saw the TV Glow, which is brilliant.
Yes,
That's on there now. Which is a very sort of like surreal Buffy the Vampire Slayer-esque fictional TV series that people become obsessed with. And it's sort of about like identity, and it's a really sort of haunting, touching portrayal of that. I do believe that the director is trans as well, so it's basically about the trans experience. It's very nice, yeah. And haunting, but nice.
Yeah. I think you did a TikTok about that.
I did,
didn't you?
yeah.
So make sure to check out TechRadar
Yeah.
TikTok to see more.
That is my second favourite movie of the year. I think that is an
Really?
incredible movie. It's
High
super
praise.
light as a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's way more just like tense, where you're kind of like, I have no idea where this is going.
Yeah. Before we close out, I want to ask everyone what their favourite Halloween movie is. It doesn't have to be a horror, because mine's certainly not. It's The Nightmare Before Christmas, which you can obviously stream on Disney+. I love it. I love that I can watch it for 3 months every year, because it's both a Halloween and a Christmas movie. And it's Tim Burton, before we go into the full politics of how Tim Burton that film is. I think it's great. Hamish, what about you? Do you have a favourite?
Yeah, I really like The Thing with Kurt Russell in. We were talking about it before the podcast. I think it's a really good sort of horror movie with some of those tense elements. You don't really know who's infected. But also, I think for me, just any slightly horror movie or scary movie you watch with like a big group of people is perfect for Halloween, because I can't really sit and watch a scary movie on my own. But the moment you add, a few extra people, you can sort of laugh when someone like jumps in their seat, and it makes the whole experience way more enjoyable.
Excellent. Matt, what about you?
I was going to say The Thing.
Yeah.
Another movie solved by modern technology, 23andMe blood test. Job done. Don't need to worry about it anymore. So I'll go kind of the more fun angle, Scream. Like you really can't go wrong with just like it's a comedy, it's a good horror, it's a really fun movie all around. And actually, since we were talking about Mike Flanagan, I briefly want to mention Ouija, Origin of Evil, which is a really good movie that he did. That again is a fun Halloween movie because it's got that like people playing with an Ouija board. It's a bad idea. It's not a good idea in movies.
Nobody's tried this bad idea out before. Lucy, what about you?
It's always a tough one. I always recommend Misery to everybody, the Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
Just purely because it's just Kathy Bates going absolutely nuts, and it's brilliant. And it's slightly less gory than the book. The book is quite intense, but I love the movie. And as a writer, that is very, very scary to me, that someone who reads my stuff or is, a fan or whatever would do that to me.
Yeah.
I often wonder if it actually tapped into Stephen King's fears himself that might happen.
I think there's a lot of times where you can see in Stephen King's work, especially where so many authors and writers appear in his work. It's like projection.
It's always in Maine as well, because he lives in Maine.
Well, that is all we have time for in this month's episode. Make sure to subscribe to see our future episodes, as well as all of our reviews, unboxing videos, and top tips on how to make the most out of your tech. And check out techradar.com for more news. Thanks for watching. Bye.
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 Bye.